This video is part 5 of the Coil vessel project, and last video I left off covering at the top, just the rim to let it dry out. So it's been over an hour, and I did actually come back to it to work it a bit more to save some time for the video purposes, but I did just use the metal rib that comes in your toolkit. And you can see from when I left off, it's more flared out. So I'll bring it closer to you to see, and side of the template. It's needs to be, it's getting closer now. It needs to be pushed out a little bit, of course, down here. And I'll show you how to do that in this video. So before I start, you can kind of see what's happening here. The template, both templates. Getting closer. Hopefully you can see that clear enough from that point. So again, metal rib, not using any water, but it is a little bit more stiffer than where I left off last video. It is definitely movable, but it's really not just flopping around a lot. And again, I did pick that up to show you on the camera there, but really refrain yourself from picking it up and moving it around too much. When you need to, just use the newspaper or your wear board. So rounded part here is where I've been going in and just, again, using my left hand to support on the outside, but just to press in pretty good. You can see the amount of clay that slakes off as you do that. It's okay. That's why you don't want to coil with really teeny tiny coils, because this pressing outward motion does scrape off some of the clay. And you notice I'm rotating it, right? I'm doing a section inside, right where my palm is on my left hand, all the way up to the top, and then rotating it just a bit. And I'm really pressing out right down here, right where that's when I put my template up, to show you where it needs to flare out the most. Hopefully you can see what's happening here, is it is getting, so like right there, that's where I'm really trying to hit with the most pressure. And these middle ribs are really great tools for this. However, I do want to show you, I mentioned before when it came time to make your slabs for your cube, the mud tools, they're Cheryl tools, mudtools.com, or you can get them at most ceramic supply stores have them. But these are, the one I showed you before was this red one here, and it's very flexible. The green one is a little bit more stiffer. So they make really great small kidney ribs. And it just, I bring this up only to show you, in case any of you want to invest and purchase your own mud tool. They come in different colors, which equals different hardnesses. So I would, if you do want to invest in one mud tool, a kidney size small one, I would go with the yellow or the green. And what that allows you to do is, you see this profile line, I can put it in the inside, and that creates such a similar shape where the metal rib is almost double the size. And they do make metal ribs too that are kidney shapes, just so you know. There's so many wonderful tools out there, but having the right tool can sometimes really make your life easier. And in this case, I just want to show you how you can go in with a tool as such, and oh, it just really, really rounds that off. And let me just rotate and go around just a bit for you to then see how much quicker you can. Perhaps in the next video, I'm thinking here that to be a little bit more creative in case you don't want to purchase new tools. I completely get that, I understand. You may have a credit card, for example, that is sitting around and you no longer need. You could cut the credit card in such a way where you could create your own kidney tool out of that. These aren't very expensive tools. They're around $6 a piece, but I don't expect you to do that because I don't know how much, future clay work after the semester you'll all be doing. But for those that think you might or know that you will, it's really just a good tool to know that they are out there and exist. Okay, so I went around and I'm going to try to pick this up here. You can see how clean I'm working in the inside. The outside needs some work, so I'll address that quickly here. Go back to, I'll show you with this tool, you can still slide up this side quite nicely. However, I would stick with this one. The bend of it is so nice on the outside to just slide up the side. And this is still pretty wet. So what I'm going to do here is not work this outside too much. I just wanted to, do another quick video to show you how you take the time from letting it dry a bit to come back to work it, to make it flare out, to get the results and to follow the template like you're asked to do for this whole unit. And then you'll also just see how you can gauge the timing of it all to not do this all at one time, obviously, right? You're gonna have to keep checking on your vessel, keep having your templates close by so that you can get closer and closer to the shape and form. You can see it's progressing nicely now following the template. And so I'm going to just go one rotation around the outside and then show you how to finish for today and cover your piece, what that looks like. And come back to it another day. So if I were going to cover this, I do have a little bit of just unevenness in the bottom, and it's hard to get that with a tool. So what I would do, I would wring out my sponge, got water source right next to me, really thoroughly wring this out. You don't want much moisture at all, but you can go on the inside and just using that damp sponge, not too hard to bring up a lot of the grog in the clay is not what's necessary, but just a quick wipe can just make that nice and clean. And then good resting point for another time. And so to wrap this up and finish for today, I would take the same piece that I had on the rim. I'm going to use that on the rim. I'm not going to spray it down. It really doesn't need to be. It's still pretty wet, so it can come back and dry, even a little bit that it will do overnight underneath the plastic. I'm just going to be really careful with the rim, right? Because again, I can't stress that enough. You do not want the rim to dry out too much or potentially crack, because then when you come back to add more coils, it's going to be really difficult. So really keep checking that rim. And that's why from here on out, every time you cover to come back at another time, cover the rib first, really tight. Try not to get any air in there at all. And then got some more plastic here. Kind of clean. So I have my piece of sheetrock here. I'm going to clean the surface off a bit with my sponge. Little bits of clay dust, again, being mindful of that. And then just cover here where I would, if you can, just to make sure it's even drying, be very gentle, pick it up and wrap the plastic underneath. You probably would be fine with just, not putting it underneath and just because it is on newspaper, but still just again, I'll say it once more. I'm really, I can't emphasize covering really well with plastic. Even if you think you're overdoing it, it's okay. Rather that be that way than have it dry out too much. So I'm going to invest a lot of time in these clay projects, right? And I don't want any of you to have to start over. So I wrap that really well underneath, being careful. And then I thought I had another piece of plastic, but I don't out here. I would put one more coat over of plastic. I would probably wrap it around the wear board and just put it over the entire thing, but keeping the, this part where I could carry it. And I want to show you one last thing. I didn't use all the coils that I prepped. So I have these coils right underneath here in the plastic, and I'm just going to move my vessel back far enough so that I can put the coils on the wear board, making sure they too are really nicely covered. Before you cover the coils, a good practice to get into is taking your spray bottle and spraying them down a bit just to keep them extra safe, extra wet overnight, so they too are able to be reused when you come back to it another time. So I have that, I've got my vessel, and then potentially what you could do is just carry this in. I'm outside, I do not want to keep it outside overnight. It's getting close to the weather anymore, merging now that we're into fall, it can potentially freeze. I do not want to risk that. So I would carry this just like so indoors and bring it out another time. So that's what the next step looks like for the vessels, and we'll keep going. I didn't measure. When I make the next video, I'll measure and see where we're at. We're probably, I'd say, close to 3 to 4 inches so far. Our goal is 10, so we're getting closer. To be continued.